Hi everyone, Charles from the Food People here. I hope you're all keeping safe and well. It's my great pleasure to welcome Tara Quick, co-founder of Charlie Oven. And we're going to be talking about everything from outdoor eating, cooking over fire, the big idea and the proposition for Charlie, how that's evolved over time, attitudes to outdoor cooking. Really particular in this product is the role of design and aesthetic, and of course, what's next for Charlie, and much, much more. So, welcome, Tara. It's brilliant to have you as part of the Food People in conversation with.
Thanks, Charles. Really delighted to do this today.
Cool. Well, before we get started, just a little intro to the In Conversation With series for those that aren't aware. At the Food People, we're very clear about why we do what we do. We're champions of change, driven every day by our intent to shift the future of food and drink by harnessing the power of trends. And in this In Conversation With series, which is now in its fourth iteration, it's all about talking to people and brands and businesses and entrepreneurs across the spectrum of food and drink to find out why and more about why they do what they do and how, in their way, they're championing change and shifting the future of food and drink. So, Tara, it's brilliant to be speaking to you today. And if it's all right, we'll dive straight in if that's okay.
Sure.
Bro, right. Well, let's kick off. Let's start nice and gentle with who you are, what you do, and where you're speaking to us from.
Right. Well, I'm speaking to you from my kitchen here in uh, leafy, lovely Kew. I'm right beside Kew Gardens. It's very, very close by, and it's actually where I brought my kids pretty much up. That was our stomping ground every day when they were small. So yeah, I am Irish, as you might be able to tell from my dulcet tones. But I have lived in the UK for 30 years now, and I married Neil, who's an Englishman. And yeah, so based here in lovely Kew, and sort of my background sort of stems from more marketing, and as I sort of went on in my career to sort of more working in startups, I've
Mhm.
always been drawn by solving consumer problems, and either there's a friction there or there's just a better way of doing things, and that's always appealed to me and intrigued me as a person.
Brilliant. Well, I can see over your right shoulder, you've got and for everyone, obviously this is a podcast series, but it will there will be a visual asset that goes on YouTube as well. So for anyone watching, that is not a fake background. That's a real Charlie oven over Tara's right shoulder. So um, tell us, what is Charlie charcoal oven?
Right. Well, Charlie oven is, or Charlie charcoal oven, it depends on who you talk to, is an outdoor oven that works as a barbecue, a pizza oven, and a smoker. And it's actually a professional oven that we've reimagined for home use.
Mhm.
And it all started, Charles, way back when I was in the pursuit of the perfect loaf of bread. I mean, it can't get more random than this.
Right.
And I'm a very keen bread maker and have been since way before lockdown.
Well, you're
And
an Irish girl, right? So you're gonna love bread.
well, I do. I really do love. Like, I can do a nice Irish bread, but sourdough and actually one of my favorites is a Portuguese bread which you can cook in one day. It's called pão de água. But anyway, I was looking for this beautiful rise of the dough,
Mhm.
and I looked at all sorts of products to buy, but a lot of them needed to be plugged in or they were gas related. And a chef friend said, "What about a charcoal oven?" And I was like, "Oh gosh, my association with charcoal was a kettle grill, which I hated cleaning." And they said, "No, no, no, the ash comes out at the bottom." Anyway, long story short, I impulsively purchased one, and it was one that sort of came the handle came down at the front, and my bread was amazing. Lockdown hit, and I found myself one day going to Whole Foods and buying some lovely sea bream, some mussels, and some prawns. And this is for a family of four. And bear in mind, you couldn't have anyone in your house.
Right.
You can even have your parents around. No takeaways, no nothing. So I said, well, why don't we cook it in the oven? And I was taking the smell out of the kitchen. And oh my God, the flavor, it transported me and into a very specific place, Fiscado in Kefalonia at the side of, the sea. And when you go and they serve you the fish and hopefully you don't get any bones, but that flavor and that sort of aroma
Uh-huh.
what it just left me with. And I was like, wow, why doesn't this exist? Now, I had never really cooked with charcoal other than my early experiences when I first moved to London, had my own little barbecue.
Yeah.
I had a gas, I won't mention the name, but a very sort of well-known grill, which was perfectly fine for what we were used to doing. Anyway, this stayed with me, and I was working for other people in startup at the time, and I just got to a point where I thought I really want to do my own thing. And what started off as an idea, and probably the aesthetic, which I know you said you want to come on and talk about, was driven by the fact that this thing was not the most attractive item in the world. And I was like, well, I just had my garden done, and it was luckily I had it done before lockdown. And I just wanted something that was beautiful. My barbecue was hidden at the very back of the garden behind, there's a big tall tree and some bushes. And it was hidden in there. And I thought, why I want something that's kind of really bright and colorful. And the very first Charlie oven that I made was bright yellow.
Right, beautiful. Um, so I want to just talk a little bit more about the brand, if I might. What is it that with the Charlie Oven that and specifically about the brand, what is it you're trying to do? What is it you're setting out to do? And I know it's a sort of a cliche expression, but what's your, I guess, for the brand, the deeper connection? What's the purpose, if you like, beyond having a successful brand? What is it you're trying to do?
Well, I would describe myself as a foodie at heart.
Mm.
So I think I express myself through food.
Yeah,
And, when I'm happy, sad, you name it, it's kind of like very important to me. And I see the Charlie Oven as a way of people that are primarily foodies
yeah,
who like to cook outside as part of their repertoire, or it may not be, and it's become part of their repertoire to express themselves and to find little moments of joy through food. And the Charlie Oven really is, I liken it to an espresso machine in that has completely changed how I have a cup of coffee every single day at home without becoming a barista.
yeah,
You do not need to be a chef, but you get such amazing flavor. And not only it's so easy to use. It really changes your behavior at home, and to have more time to enjoy the gorgeous food. It's less about hands-on cooking. It's more about enjoyment and that visceral excitement you get from opening the oven and seeing the fire there and knowing that you've done it. And there's a kind of, I don't know about you, but I think there's, if I've labored over something for hours and hours and hours, yes, that's lovely. But sometimes it's fantastic to be able to do something quickly and
yeah,
get kind of rewards. And the Charlie Oven definitely does that. And it's for everyone. It's one of these kind of, we sell a lot to people who are a lot old. The eldest person I sold to was 80. And it
yeah,
reminds me of cooking over a Rayburn stove. And they're
yeah,
going, yeah, I understand that. But it's anyone can do it. So it's very inclusive, albeit it is an investment piece. So, I think having a garden and, some other kind of key bits most people have in common when they buy one.
I mean, so enabling those sort of moments of food joy. But what is it you touched then about the ease? And how is it easier? Because I always associate cooking over fire and charcoal as there's some craft and there's some skill involved in that. But and so where yeah, how does
But
the
is
Charlie ever
there?
make it
Is
easy?
there? This is honestly, and here's the thing, I've kind of been very reluctant to even try this, but I haven't cooked on some of the other charcoal devices, from ceramic eggs to there, some other kind of types in the market there,
Yeah,
like kind of a traditional hybrid grills and what have you. But where some of the magic of the Charlie Oven kind of comes to play, its superpowers is what I like to call it. It's a really, really well insulated box. Most of these devices that you can use in the market, they open like this. So what happens? You lose all the heat and the smoke.
yeah,
So temperature control can be a little bit more sensitive.
yeah,
When you have a Charlie oven, it's not, because the air just kind of circulates around, and you lose a little bit, but you don't lose a lot.
yeah,
Um, so temperature control is incredibly easy. and the flavor comes from the aroma, and the aroma comes from really good quality charcoal, maybe adding a little bit of wood.
Yeah.
But you have easy access to all the fire sits on grates right inside the oven. You don't have then to put like a whole bunch of um kind of equipment on top of it. So, you know, a ceramic egg, you load it completely, and then
Yeah. You
you
put
try and deflect
controls
the
and
heat and
stuff
do
like
all
that,
that.
don't you?
And
Yeah.
then it depends on the quality of that, you know, the construction. There are some amazing products in that category. I'm not knocking it, but with the Charlie oven, the temperature is really consistent.
Yeah.
And the other thing, you don't need very much fuel either. It uses a fraction of the fuel you use in other devices, because the racks that we put in them are really heavy duty. They're nearly 5 kilos each.
Yeah.
Each
Okay.
rack. I
Yeah.
mean, you know, the average oven has 2 racks inside. So if you're superheating that amount of steel inside the oven, it also helps with fuel efficiency.
Yeah.
But did you know that charcoal releases 3 compounds, and one mimics the flavor of bacon, the other vanilla, and the other is whiskey. So it's a bit like if you have cinnamon sugar and you close your nose, you
Yeah.
can't anymore. It's aroma.
Yeah.
And with the oven, instead of you kind of being covered in smoke and coming back in and say, oh, you've been outside cooking, it's all in the food.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you also have, it's because it's a grill with, you know, an oven as well. You've got 9 in the larger oven. That's just the small one. That's the cheeky Charlie tabletop one with a different unit underneath. With that one, you've got 6 cooking positions. With the bigger one, you've got 9. So you've actually got quite a lot of space to cook on different
Yeah.
levels and really capture all that smoke. So I just think it's so easy. I think that's the things that stay with us are usually things that are easy to adopt.
Yeah. Yeah.
This style of cooking is for everyone.
Yeah. It's interesting you talk about too. I cooked on rotisserie over my barbecue at the weekend. You've already touched on two of my pain points, which was, of course, you lift the lid off and you lose all the heat. And actually, I actually remember putting the lid back on and actually watching the temperature have to come back up again. And the other is that you can't access the charcoal, or it's difficult to access the charcoal without moving stuff and taking things off. So you can't, just decide to put that extra bit of wood on for that extra smoke or whatever. You can once it's covered by the rack, you're a bit stuck. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah, well, and I have this lovely chap, Andrew Dickens, who helps us a lot, and he runs food stages all over the country for different events. And he keeps harping back to this point, which is it's upright cooking. There's no bending over. So I think he's been spent a lot of time bending over different devices because it for
Yeah.
him that's a real winner. But yeah.
I've got to ask you, and sorry, this is quite a superficial question, but the name Charlie obviously resonates really well with me. But why? Yeah, what's in the name?
Well, that's a very good question. And the first thing I would say, have you ever met a Charlie or a Charles that you didn't like? And I haven't. It's a fun name, and I wanted something that was boy and girl, or Neil and I wanted something that was boy and girl. Sorry, Neil is away at the moment, otherwise he'd be here with us today as well. But my sister is called Charlotte, so calling it the Tara oven or the Neil oven
Yeah,
just didn't have the right ring to it. And
yeah,
then it also links to charring and charcoal.
yeah,
So when people buy one of our ovens and they then refer to it, they refer to it like a member of the family.
yes,
You know, so and there's a certain amount of love that they give this sort of metal device that is really kind of is quite special. So for us, it just felt like a natural name, you know.
yeah.
But yeah, so
And something you can attack. Yeah, you start to, yeah, you humanize it and start to think about its human attributes, don't you? I guess.
it's a reliable person and it's a
Exactly. But my eldest daughter's a Charlotte, actually, so that I get that connection as well. I, all the time as we're talking, I'm relating it back to my own kind of cooking over fire and wood, which is something that I'm hugely passionate about as well. But is there a typical Charlie's customer, and do they tend to have just one device, or they're a bit like me, you've got to three different outdoor cooking devices. Yeah, what is there a
Yeah,
typical
well,
one?
there is a typical customer, and then I have a couple of variations around but the core, they all have a garden, right? First
Yeah.
of all,
Okay.
and they tend to be foodies.
Yeah.
So, because we do a lot of master classes, and and also how we kind of started the business and how we kind of got going was, I'm selling something that's new and different, challenges people reject what they don't understand.
Yeah.
So we felt it was really important to get out and meet people and get people to see, feel, and touch the product. So I've met a lot of my customers one on one, and and also just by my kind of I like meeting people as well. So I end up finding out bits of, I'm a chatterbox. So I end up having quite a long conversation usually. So I tend to get to know a little bit about the various people, but they're all joined by a love of food. And it's this kind of the excitement of a new recipe. Something, if we put out like an email and it has a recipe in it, the click-through rate is so much higher than just like come and see us at such and such, blah, blah, blah. But it's a love of food, I think, which unites. And it's this kind of it's their happy place.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of them they've either traded up from a ceramic egg, and a lot of them actually have algas as well. So it's
Yeah,
this
that's
idea
interesting.
that, yeah, this feels very familiar. It's an oven, And as an oven, I sell a lot to women, which kind of outstrips a lot of, I believe, my competitors
Yeah.
in the space, because yeah, it's easy. I can open it. I know how to cook like that. And it is, it's very controllable. So I would say being a foodie is the kind of key bit. And the fact that most of them cook all year round.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it's not, they don't see it as just when the weather's nice.
Summer thing. Yeah.
It's also front opening, so it doesn't really matter what the weather's doing. I've been out there with my umbrella over my head. Yes, I'd love to have a covered area just for convenience, but you don't need one,
No.
So
And I guess it's on wheels as well, so you can wheel it up to the back door almost, can't you? Right?
yeah, I that used to live at the very back of the garden, but that short journey was too long, so I can see it from the window exactly what it's doing. But you can use the probes that link to your phone.
Yeah.
Probe's a great one of those. And it's just so easy, and you feel like you've done something a bit special.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm imagining that it's the ritual that you engage with as well. It's that sort of active involvement, isn't it?
Well, one person quite early in, like when we were at one of the shows, and he was working for a charcoal company, and he said, well, the thing is, he said, when I plan a barbecue and like I'm cooking outside, I have to plan it in my head, and there's steps I go through before I go out to do it. He said, but I can imagine if I had one of these, I would just go out and do it
Yeah.
because it takes 10 minutes to get to 100 degrees, 20 minutes you're up as far as 250, and 30 minutes you're doing pizzas at 400.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I love about it is it just makes light work of things, like cook a whole meal at once,
Yeah.
do two pizzas at the same time, no turning, no twirling, and they come out really, really well.
Yeah.
And doing a whole bunch of steaks while you might have something cooking higher up in the
Yeah.
oven, or low and slow, so hanging a leg of lamb, and I now drill a hole in the bone because I've lost enough legs to now know that when that meat rattles, I've got my little drill bit out, and off we go. But it's just easy to do, and it takes, the other thing it does from a real practical standpoint, it takes all the mess out of the kitchen.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely, completely get that. Tell us a bit about the product, and I mean, they look and they're really solid. They feel amazing. What is it? What's unique about the product design and the build, and some of the functionality?
Well, I think sometimes, you see a product and you think, gosh, that's so simple. What, and you think, well, why isn't someone else doing it? Or, oh, I wish I'd thought of that. And this is a very simple device. It is a steel box with insulation, air vents. And, so at its kind of most basic, that's what it is.
Yeah.
What makes it special? I think what we've done is, and it was a very deliberate thing, which is, I call it Beauty and the Beast, right? So the large oven, the normal one for home use, weighs in at 165 kilos.
Hmm.
The handle is almost 2 kilos of solid stainless steel. And And that's deliberate because it's the haptics. So it's that car door moment. There's an ad for Volkswagen, apparently. Yes, doesn't sound like a Volkswagen. And
Yeah.
this garden designer said to me last Christmas, and I was like, okay, I better go and check that out because I'm not into cars. But when you shut the door, you know, you feel how solid it is. But
Kitchen.
what that also does is it holds all the heat inside the steel. It will radiate very, very slowly out. Like if you're cooking for 12 hours, yes, it'll be warm on the outside, but it still wouldn't burn you on the outside. So it's just its robust design. The other thing we've done is, and this is a lot of it has been trial and error and like speaking to chefs and you know, people saying, oh, what about this? Or like just trying it ourselves. So I start the racks right at the very top of the oven. So you can't actually put anything on that shelf,
Hmm.
but you can hang off it.
Yeah, okay.
And this was when we launched at an event called Metopia
Yeah.
in TikTok, which is one of our favorites, and we love the guys behind it. They've been tremendous supporters of ours. But when I went to the first one on their cutting room floor, and we had an oven there at the time, I have a great picture of Nicholas Edstadt kissing it, by the way. So, but yeah, he's a
I think I
very
remember seeing that on your Instagram feed, right?
yeah, I felt like it was a bit out of date. I felt it was like very overkill. But there was an amazing company from Scotland talking about traditionally smoked uh, salmon.
Yeah,
And there was, if you see the hole in the salmon because you've seen where the S hook's gone in,
yeah,
that's you know you've got a good one. And you think how expensive those things are. I like to buy like a little bit of smoked salmon. So it was a chap called Chris Taylor. He has an alter ego called Choppy T-Bone Chops. But anyway, he's an amazing chef. And he said, you know, Tara, you know, if you started them right at the top, I could just, you know, I said, well, let's do it. And then, you know, it's become one of our signatures. And, you know, our customers are always sharing images. There's one on our Instagram at the moment of, I think, 8 uh, kebabs of chicken tikka, but they're all hung on, and
yeah,
it looks really cool. So, yeah, it's come from trial and error.
yeah,
We've got an amazing seal on the oven. And so the design of this oven was done with an amazing engineering firm who I was working with in my last business. And they're industrial food manufacturing engineers. And when I decided to turn this into a business, I went to speak to them and said, look, will you help me? I have this idea.
yeah,
I bought this oven. It works in this way, but all these things don't work for me. It wasn't designed for outdoor. Steam and smoke would escape through all sorts of orifices, and then it would condense and all these black kind of lines coming down of
yeah,
dirt.
yeah,
I was cleaning it. It hissed when it rained. So I said, I want clean lines. And I was really thinking of aesthetics at this
yeah,
point.
yeah,
Clean lines and you know, like bold colors. And then what we ended up with was, you know, a real combination of its origins from like, you know, catering,
yeah,
kitchen,
yeah,
the kind of the kind of very soft kind of radial edges, the really strong handle, clean lines. And then, you know, it is a bulky item. Well, it's not that bulky. It's tall. It doesn't take up much room, but
no,
it sort of came out from there. And then obviously, color.
yeah,
I I love color. Not that you can tell my kitchen is white and kind of grey, but there's accents of yellow and stuff in here. But I just love how you can express yourself through color.
yeah,
And you know, on a different day, a different kind of color will suit. And we do sell a lot in dark grey,
yeah,
which we call porcini, and it's a lovely rich dark grey. It's got a brown base to it. But we equally, at the moment, I cannot make enough of saffron, which is this beautiful, rich orange that we do. And I love to mix and match it as well. So you can be bold with your Charlie, or you can be very subtle.
yeah. And the two uh items that you've got out there, is that a crayon color or is it a
That one is we call it white truffle. So
okay.
it's
Yeah,
a bit of a Nordic grey,
yeah,
and then the one is beetroot, and beetroot is probably my top color. It changes all the time because we move stuff around, and we've just come back from a big show up in Manchester, and some of the stuff actually had to leave the garden because we can't make the stuff fast enough at the moment because we've had a tremendous summer. So it's all I can say.
that's fantastic news. Well, And I guess following that theme, you talk a lot about Britishness in the proposition. I'm assuming you could, if you wanted to, manufacture them more cheaply, somewhere else in the world. How important is Britishness to the proposition?
It's hugely important. There are many products out there that are made, in far-flung places, and they are pretty good quality. But as a small business, to be able to manage quality and then shipping from abroad is just it's a big no-no. It's a hand-built product.
Yeah.
So the other thing is, I don't know if this is going to be a long-term trend, but the cost of shipping from those far-flung places has become really prohibitive.
Yeah.
It's never on the cards for us. We knew what we wanted, a quality product. It's a bit like we could make some of these elements, even in the UK, a lot cheaper if I hollowed out the handle and
Yes.
things like that.
Yeah.
It's not what
Yeah.
we're about. And I know that each one of my ovens, the average age of the workman on the ovens, they're made in Nottingham. And we work with an amazing company who Neil would describe as being big enough to count and small enough to care. And the love and attention that goes in to each one is immense. And they're very, very responsive.
Yeah.
So we're making our desire is not to be the biggest brand in the world, but it's one that stands for quality and appeals to that kind of group of consumers where being made in this country. It's also much better for the planet. There's less miles involved. And the other thing is I know each one is made to the right specification. And it allows me to do things like be flexible on colors. We do 10 colors.
Yes.
You know,
Wow.
trying to do that abroad. It's not on the cards for us right now. And we really think the badge of being made in Britain means something.
Yeah. And you touched on this as you're describing and talking about Britishness then, but how do you want to make a Charlie oven owner feel when they cook on in one of your ovens?
Well, I actually want to kind of excite them, to be honest. So it's really interesting you say that because we had a chap who came to the last class we did, and we had an amazing chef, Andrew Clark. It was the second class with us. He's just phenomenal chef. But for him, I'll double back in a second. But for him, it was to take time out of his day, and it was me time. So it's this ritual of cooking, and he likes to cook big joints of meat. Very creative guy, but like a really high pressure job. And he said it's me time. And he really agonized over the spend, but he rewarded himself with this gift.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people who do that. Either they're retiring, it's just something, and they visualize it as something they can give to their family.
Yeah.
We did one just yesterday, and it's really funny because it was lots of logistics, and I was speaking to the new customer, and they were saying, we're cooking tonight. What shall we do? And it's like, oh God, the pressure, So there's this like real anticipation. I just want to cook. I just want to cook. But it's about there's this moment of when you open the door, what's inside.
Yeah.
You get people saying, "Oh, put a window in." The window doesn't work. It's that loveliness of like opening the door and what's in there. And also, if you're cooking a leg of lamb, you literally want to lick the outside of the thing. It's the
Yeah.
smell that it. As soon as you light it, you start to get excited. Now, maybe that's just me, but it would reflect my customers as well,
Yeah.
for sure.
No, well, that absolutely resonates with me. You're talking about treating. I'm thinking about my 50th birthday next April.
I have supplied a lot for big birthdays, I
Yeah,
can tell you.
right. I can imagine. You touched on this a minute ago, but clearly making an oven of this stature, clearly it's going to have some environmental impact. So, how do you go about mitigating that in, I guess, not only the manufacturing but the shipping and getting it to customers as well?
Yeah, well, the one thing I would say is if I kind of answer the question backwards,
Yeah.
uses hardly any fuels, right? So if you think you want to cook outside, the amount of fuel you use in a Charlie oven is a fraction of any other device.
Hmm.
Now, I'm determined to do the sums on this because we've been to the sustainability show. We've kind of been accepted in for like it's a tiny bit of fuel and you can cook an entire meal or and keep on cooking with it, or shut it down completely and you still have the fuel thereafter. So it uses, first of all, it uses hardly any fuel. The way it's manufactured means it can be renewed again and again and again. So we can repaint it and bring it back to life, and it will outlast you or me.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
yeah. And the way it's made means that there's no air that can escape. So again, it even uses less energy. So it's
Yeah.
all these kind of insensible losses that we avoid with the construction of the product itself. There is more we could do in terms of deliveries. We tend to do it in the most kind of frugal way possible, if I'm being really honest. We ship in sort of pallet containers. So
Yeah.
many ways, I suppose they're not going over a huge amount of miles, and the packaging we're working on that as well because you don't want metal to rub. But we've got a fantastic new cardboard box, which honestly you could turn into a doll's house afterwards. It looks gorgeous. So the construction, the cooking of it, and over a lifetime, it's a really good product to buy.
I didn't know that you'd thought about the opportunity to repaint and almost
It's circular,
quite, yeah,
circular.
exactly. But also, it's clearly an investment. But the way you're talking it, or the way we're talking about it, it's almost like a timepiece, right? That you could, you see some of the big watch brands. It's about handing down from one generation to another. There's almost a bit of that in there, perhaps.
Well, that's a very nice idea for a campaign at some point. But
Yeah,
I've only done this once, and it was mainly because we brought out a new color, which is this lovely teal color. It's been out for a while now. But one of the guys he bought from us at Metopia bought in a red color, which we don't do anymore. I was never in love with the red. But my husband said, "Oh yeah, you have to have a red one." So we had a red one, and we since discontinued it. And this lovely chap who lives on the south coast got in touch and said, "How much would it cost to have this repainted? Can you repaint it?" So we did it. We did it all at cost to see how we do it. And the only thing I would do differently is we collected his oven with a Luton van. So that cost an absolute bomb to get it back to
yeah,
Nottingham. Now I just put on the back of a pallet truck, and it would cost an awful lot less. But he then bought the island units. We've branched out into sort of kind of accessories to go with it.
yeah.
So the island unit is very, very practical, kind of can twirl it around, turn it into a bar area or whatever. But this guy was building this beautiful outdoor structure, and he had a hot tub in one corner, and then he had his new Charlie, and it basically looked brand new. You could see the inside was used, but we there are a couple of things that we've changed since he first got his. Like we now have a branded chimney, and there's something else I can't remember. Or branded dial. We didn't have a branded thermometer at the very beginning, and so we just changed those few bits for him and sent it back, and he got his new island unit, and the thing just looked beautiful outside. He's a great customer, actually.
Amazing. A few couple of foodie questions, if I may. Um, what for you is the secret to cooking over fire and over charcoal?
I like to keep it simple. Whether it's a secret or not, it's just a preference. There's so much flavor that comes from that style of cooking that it's just keeping it simple. I mean, having beautiful ingredients. It's
Yeah.
kind of like I think I'm Italian in sort of my ancestry somewhere. I'm not actually, but want to be. It's my spiritual home. My favorite place in the entire world is standing in a massive co-op in Tuscany, which is
Yeah.
better than any sort of fancy food hall over here. But it's just where you have beautiful ingredients and you don't fiddle with them too much,
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
it simple. I'm not a fan of rubs and things, but that's just personally. Each to their own. I just like things keeping it simple and letting the fire speak, letting it sort of, do the work, and a little bit of, there are certain kind of things to not do, is like adding olive oil when you're cooking over high heat, it'll burn,
Yeah.
adding pepper, things like that. So it's just some little things to do that are different. But if you're going to buy beautiful ingredients, the Charlie oven honors those ingredients,
Okay.
is how I see it.
Yeah.
It's cooking with love and keeping it simple.
Yeah. Okay. And which leads me really nicely on to what are some of your favorite dishes to cook in the Charlie?
And it changes by season. I love to do seafood.
Yeah.
So some big kind of juicy prawns and we have a plancha tray that we launched last year, which has holes in it.
Hmm.
So it just takes I stopped losing them down the kind of in between the grates. Um, so things like prawns, some really nice baba ganoush. Well, I do a version of baba ganoush, but it's like I dirty cook the aubergines directly in the
Yeah.
fire,
Yeah.
and just whip it up with some really nice ingredients. Fish cooked very simply in the same way, or just a gorgeous steak, and then I finish it with a lovely my version of a chimichurri where I add some long Romano peppers, which I burn on the outside, and then
Oh, yeah.
in with some herbs, and
Yeah.
I got that from a fantastic chef called Bar Vandalay. So a lot of it is because we work with these great chefs that I get to enjoy some flavor bombs and I'm not against adding flavors. So Bart Vandalay, who did an amazing seafood masterclass for us last year, and he bought all his ingredients from the Chelsea fishmonger. Like I think Rex had a good day that day because Bart turned up. He bought like real octopus, and we boil them and then we grill them, and like all the stages. It
Oh,
was
that was amazing.
incredible. And it was so easy. And then, he did these gigantic prawns, but he did them with black garlic and preserved lemon.
Yeah.
So I love ingredients,
Yeah.
so but that was still very, very simple.
Yes.
There weren't too many stages.
Some of the things you're talking about as well, though, for some people, and I love that this comes back to your point about ease and ease of cooking on a Charlie. Some of cooking fish and those types of things for some people would be quite scary, but obviously the device itself and all of those things that you talked about earlier on actually makes it sounds like it makes it quite easy to do those types of things.
It is, when that's not to say I haven't had my failures.
Yeah.
There was one very, very warm night where we had frozen margaritas and we all had too many of them. And I remember texting to Neil and saying, that beef is done. He kept saying, no, it's not, no, it's not. And eventually when we took it out, it was like all leather. But we'd had a really good evening and we just said it's still tasting
It was
nice.
worth it.
It doesn't always work out. So yeah, there are your but you learn from when
Yeah.
it doesn't go right,
Yeah.
But in general, if you can control temperature and you can remember to check on the products on whatever you're cooking, it turns out
Yeah.
pretty well. I think it's just take a what I find with my customers is they start off doing the basics. And then before you know it, they're sending me the most adventurous things that they're cooking, and they've tried this, they've tried that, and that's really exciting. That's very gratifying
Yeah.
because that's kind of my journey as well, which is like, right, well, what can we do now? Like even things like cooking a paella over in the Charlie oven. So paella is traditionally cooked over wood,
Yeah.
open and wood, and then you can still cook all the different stages. I have a really nice terracotta bowl over there that I put it directly in, and once it's heated up gradually with the oven, it's fine. And
Yeah.
then just finishing it, it's easy and really satisfying.
I see. Well, you've mentioned it yourself, but just seeing and interacting with your content that you work with and collaborate with a lot of chefs. How important is that? Well, I guess credential endorsement. I don't know what you want to call it, but that sort of that kind of collaboration with chefs.
It's I think it's important for me. And it certainly has paid dividends with our customers. And uh, it really stemmed from me wanting to really learn more about this style of cooking because
Yeah.
I kind of came at it, well, how hard can it be? This is how I cook in a kitchen, and I love to cook. So, and it was trial and error. And but I love the recipes and the kind of the inspiration that these chefs bring. I like so some of it was self-driven because I just really wanted to have these guys to learn from. But the benefit for me was great. So these guys, a lot of them are quite discerning. So if they didn't believe in the product, then will they want to come? It's a professional piece of kit.
Yeah.
And we do a professional model. It's not where my mission is not about the professional kitchen. It is about the home cook and really transforming outdoor cooking into something that gives everyday pleasure to everyone that wants to have an oven like this and wants to cook. So just to take away all those pain points from having to, the faff, the stress of, we've all gone to a barbecue or gone to someone's house to eat and eaten outside, and you've not seen the host because they're sweating over a hot device. This is the opposite. You can have more time to hang out with your friends. We all live very kind of busy lives, so that's important. Coming back to the chefs are really exciting, and I've kind of approached a whole bunch of them that I admire, I follow, and the only thing that's really limited us in doing some this year is we've been really, really busy. So we haven't had as much time to do them, but we have one this week,
Yeah.
Charles. One on Thursday, and I have a fantastic guy called Matt Burgess. He's known as Matt Black on Instagram.
I know him.
Now, Matt has an amazing pedigree, and
Yeah.
his whole class is called Flavor.
Yeah.
So his origins, he's a Maori from New Zealand, and his flavors are all to do with Asia as well. And he's just showing us how to balance flavor. Now we're going to cook in the oven. And one of my worries was, I was like, oh my God, I really want to do this class, but are we actually going to cook enough? Will it work? And he said, yeah, don't worry. So he borrowed one of the ovens for about a month and, fell in love. And he's been a really a big fan of ours ever since.
Oh,
So
wow. Amazing session.
yeah, so and he's, it is all about balancing flavors, and he's got this box of tricks of different ingredients and things like that. So I think if someone comes to our class, they come and they take away maybe one or two little techniques, one or
Yeah.
two ingredients. And that's all I kind of think, for me, I love to read a cookery book at bedtime and then I go into the kitchen and figure it out myself. I
Yeah,
start to follow
absolutely.
a recipe.
That inspiration.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's inspiring. And then the great thing is, and from a purely practical, I'm a startup, so it's like trying to generate something from very little. Is the recipes go on the website. We try and kind of document what we're doing. So we're inspiring people to cook more food. And yeah, we've been very lucky with the guys who wanted to collaborate with us so far.
Fantastic. Well, chefs are a discerning bunch, that's for sure. And if they didn't think there was performance and pedigree in the product, then yeah, they wouldn't work with you. So yeah, I used to be one, so I know what that's like. It's about believing and believing in a product. So a couple of questions before we finish. Well, I have to ask you kind of what's next, really. What's next on the horizon? I can see already that you've introduced some additional accessories and the unit. But yeah, what's coming that you're prepared to tell us about?
Right. Well, we've got some really cool new accessories that fit inside the oven. First of all, new ones. But we are leaving those until there's probably one going to launch we're doing a foodie retreat in Cornwall at the end of September for 3 days down in Argentinian house. And it's all about Argentinian style cooking. So that's the hint. So there'll be accessories linked to that theme. The island unit, we've called that our capsule collection. So it's the first. So we're going to do different configurations of that. My main kind of focus is selling the ovens themselves. There are a few little tweaks to the oven, but nothing major. Some new colors for the autumn.
Brilliant.
And they'll be coming out as well. And then it's really more about sort of business priorities, about extending into retail in the UK and worldwide.
Okay.
We're off to Maison Objet in Paris in September, really design led.
Yeah.
And we're in talks about some other collaborations, which are really exciting. So more recipes, more how-tos. It's like we've got this fantastic device. We have a growing community of people who love to use it, but there's a whole bunch of people out there who are yet to even discover we exist. We're going to do a lot more explainer videos on different ways of cooking, because yeah, people, it's not everyone feels that confident or or less kind of, it doesn't bother me if I fail in a cook. It's like, well, I'll learn for next time. Obviously, it's a pain when it happens, but there's a lot of people that need a bit more
Yeah.
reassurance.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be doing some very detailed how-tos, and hopefully we're loading those onto the likes of YouTube and the website and stuff.
Brilliant. Super exciting. Last question. If anyone wants to buy one, how do they do it?
Well, they can come directly to us at our website, which is charlieoven.com. Very simple. And if they say they've seen us here, I will give them a very nice gift
Yeah.
to go with it, because we do shows a lot, and we always do a nice kind of show offer. We never discount, but we have a nice little offer. And plus, we are now in more retailers, and that is growing at the moment. So if you go on our website and you want to go and see one,
Yeah.
just look at our Charlie Stockist list, or sign up for a masterclass.
Brilliant. Super. Tara, unfortunately, that has to conclude this episode of the Food People in Conversation with. But honestly, on behalf of us all at the Food People and the In Conversation with audience, thank you so much for joining me today. I know we've talked about this for a little while, so it's great to be able to make the time to talk about the Charlie Oven, the story, your journey, all the exciting things that are to come, and of course, what makes the Charlie Oven so unique. It's been a real eye-opener, and yeah, a pleasure to talk even more detail about the Charlie Oven. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity. I really enjoyed it.
So do join our TFP community for the details of our latest In Conversation with episodes, as well as the latest free-to-access food and drink trends foresight. Visit thefoodpeople.co.uk. Complete your details at the footer of the page. On behalf of Tara and myself, thanks so much for listening to the Food People in Conversation with. Join with us in the trends of today and the foresights of tomorrow to shift the future of food and drink. And as always, I'll leave you with one question, which is, how are you shifting the future of food and drink? Thanks for listening.